Can you explain this to me? What exactly is going on here? I don't know either. How could we, both having type A blood, have a child with type B blood? The only thing that doesn't make sense is you. It's clear you've been cheating on me, isn't it? That's not true. I would never betray you. Since getting married, I've never been with anyone else but my husband. That's why I couldn't understand how a child with a blood type that couldn't possibly be ours was born. But I also understood his reasoning. If there was any chance of infidelity, it had to be on my part. And there was no other explanation. There must be some mistake. I don't know the reason, but I've never been with anyone else. How am I supposed to believe that? Stop messing with me. Don't you dare mock me like this. Please, believe me. I can't. And if you've been cheating, then I'll finally be free to leave you for the woman I truly love. My mind went blank at his words. The woman he truly loves. What does that even mean? Though I didn't understand what was happening, I forced my brain to work. Wait a minute. What do you mean, the woman you truly love? What do you think I mean? You cheated, didn't you? Well, so did I. What? I had never betrayed him, nor had I ever thought of doing so. This was all some kind of mistake that had led to me being suspected of cheating, but it wasn't true. However, he was different. Fine, then let's get a divorce. We'll go our separate ways and live our own lives. You have no complaints, right? None at all. And let's agree no alimony claims from either of us. With those words, Robert left the house. He was probably going to meet his mistress, but I wasn't going to let things end like this. 1 week later, I called Robert. Hello. Why are you calling me? I thought we were done. I want to be done too, but there's something I need to confirm. It's about the child I was pregnant with. I told him everything I had learned over the past week. Robert's confident demeanor vanished, and he fell silent for a while. Then, you've got to be kidding me. That's impossible. My name is Jessica. I live with my husband, Robert. We get married just a month ago. How about we go to Disney this Saturday? I thought it'd be fun to have a day out together. Disney. Sure, but make sure you handle the tickets. I'm not into that kind of stuff. Really? Great, thanks. I'm looking forward to it. Robert is a quiet man, so we don't communicate much as a couple. On weekends, we mostly pursue our hobbies individually and rarely go out together. Still, we maintain a good relationship, keeping a comfortable distance from each other. Is it really okay to keep meeting 40 this often, even after getting married? Well, he's at home playing games. He's not really the outdoorsy type. I see. But you and Robert are getting along well, right? Of course. You don't need to worry about that. I had been able to maintain my friendships, and I had no complaints about my life. Even after getting married, I kept working, which gave me financial independence, and Robert never interfered with my friendships. Naturally, I also valued my time with Robert, and everything was going perfectly. One day, 6 months into our married life, Robert and I, who both worked, were splitting household expenses equally. This arrangement left us with a relatively generous amount of personal spending money. But Robert approached me one evening with a serious expression. Hey, about our living expenses. Would it be okay if you covered 70% from now on? What? Well, my company is going through a major restructuring, and I was affected. I couldn't afford to lose my job, so I accepted a pay cut. I see. My salary has been cut in half. So, can you help out? Of course. Thanks to my relatively steady income, our daily life wasn't significantly impacted. However, Robert worked for a renowned corporation in his industry, so hearing about his salary being halved genuinely shocked me. Is there any chance for a raise in the future? Not at all. I'm lucky to still have a job. At this point, I understand. It's a tough economy, and having a job is a blessing. The fact that Robert was caught up in the restructuring stunned me. As much as I struggled to accept it, I knew I had to face reality. On the bright side, at least he hadn't completely lost his job. Still, I wanted to have children someday. For that reason, I wished Robert would find a new job where he could earn the same salary as before. I didn't expect it to happen immediately. Changing jobs takes time and effort, and it's not a simple process. So I chose to be patient. But even 6 months, then a year later, Robert showed no intention of leaving his job. Hey, what's going on with your plans to switch jobs? It's been quite a while. Have you been too busy at work to think about it? A new job. I haven't given it much thought. I mean, I already have a job. Why would I need to change? Seriously, you haven't thought about it at all. Look, I have a job, and we're managing fine. Why should I risk my career and go through all that trouble? It doesn't make any sense. I was at a loss for words after hearing this. Robert wasn't wrong. Thanks to my income, we were managing fine. We weren't living extravagantly, so there was no urgent need for him to switch jobs. However, we had already discussed the future, especially about having children. If your job isn't stable, we can't plan for anything. We talked about this, didn't we? Children. Did we ever talk about that? You mentioned wanting kids, and I told you that if I get pregnant, I'll have to take time off work. Right, we talked about this. There's maternity leave, then parental leave, and even after returning to work, raising a child costs a lot. We can't just rely on my salary for this. We can think about all that when the time comes. You're overthinking everything. I'm enjoying my current job, and that's what matters. Having a stress-free job is important, but there are things far more crucial than that. We're married, so I wish he wouldn't leave all the responsibilities to me. That was how I felt. Thinking about kids and the future, it was clear he'd have to change jobs. Sure, everything was fine now, but living for the moment alone isn't enough. As adults, that much should be understood. But trying to explain anything to someone who doesn't listen feels pointless. So I decided to wait until Robert felt ready to talk. One day, out of the blue, Robert, I think I might be pregnant. What? Really? Yeah, I've been missing my period, and the test confirmed it. I'm so happy. That's great. Robert didn't seem overly thrilled, but being the reserved type, he probably wasn't showing his emotions outwardly. He had always said he wanted kids, so deep down, I was sure he was happy. Do you think it's a boy or a girl? I don't mind either way. Whether it's a boy or a girl, it'll be our precious child. True. From then on, our life was filled with happiness, though there was still a long way to go before the baby was born. Each day felt joyous, but that feeling didn't last for long. Hey, are you done with work? Yay, but I'm going out for drinks tonight, so I'll be back late. What? Really? Yeah, my senior invited me, and I couldn't exactly say no. I see. Okay. With that, Robert hung up the phone. Lately, the days had been tough with morning sickness, leaving me barely able to move. Even the simplest tasks felt overwhelming, and I spent most of my time lying down. Despite that, Robert didn't seem concerned about me at all. I understood he was busy with work, but prioritizing himself so much felt emotionally draining. I'm home. Welcome back. Why isn't any of the housework done? I'm sorry, but I've been feeling really sick today. If you're not going to work, then housework is your job, isn't it? With your income reduced, the least you can do is handle that much. I'm sorry. I'm not looking for apologies. I'm asking you to take responsibility. I handle my share, and you should handle yours. Stop making me spell out what's expected of adults. Despite having gone out drinking, Robert wasn't particularly drunk. He was angry that I hadn't done any housework and went straight to the bedroom. Of course, since Robert worked, it seemed natural for me to take care of the house chores. However, he could at least try to understand how hard morning sickness is. My morning sickness was severe, so much so that even walking was a struggle. There was no way I could work in that condition. For men who can't experience morning sickness, it might seem like I was just being lazy, and I could almost understand why they'd think that. Still, I wished he would show a bit more concern for me. During this emotionally fragile time caused by hormonal changes, my relationship with Robert grew strained, and the happiness we felt when we first discovered the pregnancy had vanished. As my belly grew, it became physically challenging to manage household chores. Yet Robert showed no sign of stepping up to help, instead choosing to go out for drinks or play golf. Going back to my parents wasn't an option either. My mother had started developing dementia, and my father was fully occupied caring for her. With no other choice, I pushed through the rest of the pregnancy on my own. The baby's born. A week before the due date, I was admitted to the hospital and successfully delivered a baby girl. She was a bit smaller and lighter than average, but the moment I held her in my arms, tears of joy streamed down my face. From that moment, I resolved to do my best for her no matter what. I was able to feel that way from the bottom of my heart. She's such a cute baby. Yeah, she's so adorable. I could watch her forever. Let's cherish her and raise her together. Yay! Although Robert had barely helped during the pregnancy, seeing our daughter seemed to awaken his sense of fatherhood. His eyes sparkled, giving me hope that he would become a great dad. After I was discharged, our life as a family of 3 began. Parenting for the first time was full of uncertainties, but we worked together, figuring things out as we went along. Then 1 month later, when we took our daughter to the hospital for a checkup, they performed a blood test. Since we were both type A, we naturally assumed our daughter would be, too. But the result shocked us. Type B. What's going on here? We're both type A. How can we have a type B child? Have you been cheating on me behind my back? I haven't cheated on you. Then how do you explain this? Or are you saying the hospital is lying to us? That's not what I'm saying, but we'll talk about this properly when we get home. Not wanting to cause a scene at the hospital, Robert stormed out and drove home alone. I had no choice but to call a cab to get myself and our daughter back. Now, explain this. What's going on here? I don't know. I don't understand how our daughter could be type B when we're both type A. The only thing that doesn't make sense here is you. The only explanation is that you cheated. Isn't that right? No, I would never betray you. So you're just going to stand there and lie. This is your chance to come clean. Tell me who you've been seeing. Even if you say that I didn't do it, there's nothing to admit to, because even I don't understand how a child with blood type B was born. Since getting married, I had never been involved with anyone else but Robert, so I truly had no idea why a child with a blood type that shouldn't have been possible was born. However, I could understand his perspective. The possibility of infidelity rested with me, and there seemed to be no explanation other than that I had cheated. I don't know if it's some kind of mistake, but I've never been with anyone other than you. How can I believe that? Stop making such ridiculous excuses. Don't treat me like a fool. Please, believe me. I can't. Besides, if you've been cheating, that means I can leave with a clear conscience. I can finally be with the woman I truly love. His words left my mind blank. the woman he truly loves. I couldn't grasp what was happening, but I forced myself to think as fast as I could. Wait a second. What do you mean by the woman you truly love? What do I mean? Exactly what I said. You cheated, didn't you? So did I. What? Hearing the phrase, the woman I truly love, I instantly realized he had been unfaithful. Still, hearing him admit it out loud was a shock I wasn't prepared for. I had never betrayed him, and had never even thought of doing so. This time, there was a misunderstanding, and I was falsely accused of infidelity. But for him, it was different. What do you mean you've been cheating? Since we got married, you've lost your appeal as a woman. Naturally, I gravitated toward someone who was more attractive as a woman. Wait a second, that's completely unacceptable. You had an affair, had a child with someone else, and tried to pass that child off as mine. How could that ever be okay? Robert seemed to be claiming that my supposed infidelity justified his own. When did you start cheating? You won't even talk about your own affair, but you're so eager to know about mine. Well, unlike you, I'm not a coward, so I'll be honest. I started about a year ago, just before your pregnancy was discovered. So even after finding out I was pregnant, you didn't stop. That's right. With your belly growing, I couldn't see you as a woman anymore. I turned to someone who could fulfill that femininity I needed. It's your fault, so I did nothing wrong. I was at a loss for words again. Maybe I was partly to blame for becoming less feminine. But no matter the reason, there was no justification for cheating. And even if it had been a one-time mistake, I might have been able to forgive it. But continuing the affair even after learning I was pregnant was unforgivable. Don't you have any sense of responsibility as a father? A single mistake might be understandable, but once a child is involved, you should have ended the affair. You lost your charm as a woman. Having a child won't fix that. If anything, it'll just make it worse. You're probably planning to use parenting as an excuse and completely neglect your femininity, right? That has nothing to do with this. Don't you feel anything about destroying our family? Not really. I don't feel anything. Besides, you wouldn't have found out if I hadn't said anything. So it doesn't matter, does it? At that moment, hearing Robert's words, I decided to divorce him. The fact that he suspected me of cheating couldn't be undone. But more than that, Robert's character was fundamentally flawed. Even if I could clear up his suspicions about me, I no longer intended to raise a child with this man. Fine, let's get a divorce. We'll go our separate ways. No complaints about that, right? Of course not. And no alimony claims from either side, because we're both cheating. Do you have a problem with that? Trying to demand alimony from me while you're cheating too. Don't say anything ridiculous. You know what? Fine. And obviously, since the child isn't mine, I'm not paying any child support. Understood. With that, Robert left the house. He was probably off to see his affair partner. But I wasn't going to let things end this way. Hi, Dad. I need to talk to you about something. I was determined not to go through a divorce without receiving alimony or child support. To do that, I first needed to solve the mystery of why our child's blood type didn't make sense. I researched online and asked around, and one hypothesis came to mind. Jessica's blood type. I'm planning to check again, but is there any chance my blood type isn't a? Well, Mom said it was tested, so I don't think that's possible. Are there any records from the hospital or anything like that? Probably not. Since my mother was suffering from dementia, any information she provided couldn't be trusted, so I decided to go to the hospital myself and get a blood test. The possibility that my blood type was incorrect was something I had dismissed from the start. From a young age, I had believed I was type A. and I had never questioned it. I considered various possibilities, rare cases where type A parents could have a type B child, or medical conditions, but ultimately concluded that two type A parents could not have a type B child. For a while, the mystery remained unsolved. But tracing back, there was no definitive proof that I was type A. When I asked my father for confirmation, I didn't get a definitive answer. That realization led me to consider the possibility that my own blood type might be wrong. I went to the hospital and had a blood test. The result revealed that I was type B. This proved that I hadn't been unfaithful, and that it was indeed possible for Robert's child to be type B. Hello. Why are you calling me? I thought I cut all ties with you. I was thinking of cutting ties with you too, but after getting a blood test, I found out that I'm blood type B. So it's perfectly possible for our child to be B as well. I've told you many times I didn't cheat. Now that there's a real possibility that this child is yours, you can't refuse to pay alimony and child support. What? You're type B. Are you serious? Yes, that's why I want to talk properly. I should have done this from the start. I need you to get a DNA test to confirm if you and our daughter share a biological connection. Once it's proven, you'll feel more inclined to pay alimony and child support, won't you? My goal was singular. I needed him to pay. My income alone wasn't enough to provide for my daughter without making her endure hardship, and I couldn't allow him to evade responsibility after cheating and breaking up our family, whether it was through financial support or some other means. He had to take accountability, and ensuring he paid was the best outcome for both my daughter and me. You've got to be kidding me. I'm not accepting some mistake about your blood type, and besides, we've already cut ties, so don't contact me anymore. I'm not paying alimony or child support, ever. What? Not even child support for your own kid? She's not mine? You're just trying to trap me. That child's actually from your affair, isn't she? I know everything. You're free to think that. If you really believe I cheated and had a child with someone else, then fine. That's exactly why I'm asking for a DNA test. If it shows no connection between you and her, it will prove I was unfaithful, won't it? Well, that's true, but are you scared now because your certainty about my cheating is starting to waver? The moment I said that, he fell silent. At first, he truly believed I had cheated. Given the circumstantial evidence, I couldn't blame him for thinking that. But now, a week later, the theory that Robert and I had conceived a child together was becoming the most likely scenario. Still, he'd already started a new life with his affair partner, and it seemed he was desperately trying to dodge any responsibility. But such excuses wouldn't fly. You don't get to walk away from creating a child and say you have no part in it, especially not after you destroyed a family by cheating. One way or another, he was going to take responsibility. Should I contact your affair partner instead? Or maybe your workplace? I hear you haven't even disclosed that you're married. Wait, how do you know about that? Why? Did you think I spent the whole week doing nothing? Well, I really can't let too many people know about this. Fine, let's talk. Just don't make this any worse. Then meet me at the time and place I specify. We'll discuss everything there. I ended the call after saying that and arranged to meet him later. I deliberately chose a weekday, knowing he'd have to take time off work, fearing exposure. And sure enough, he did. So will you agree to the DNA test? Wait a minute. I'll pay the compensation. So can't we settle this with that? Huh, are you saying you're not planning to pay child support? Well, I mean, there's no way I have that kind of money. Right, my salary has gone down, and if I pay the compensation, I'll literally be broke. Come on, you've got child support programs. and family to help, don't you?" I completely lost my patience at his words and exploded in anger. His utter refusal to take any responsibility infuriated me beyond words. I could understand that he didn't have money, but he could at least try to get a loan or borrow from his family to make an effort to pay. The lack of any sense of responsibility and his selfishness left me with no sympathy at all. "Of course, you're going to pay child support as well as compensation. There's no way I'm letting you off with just one. And let me be clear, no installment plans for someone as irresponsible as you. You'll gather the money and pay it all at once. Only then will I cut all ties with you as you wish." "Don't say that. You know that's completely unrealistic. Please, I'm begging you. That's not happening. You can't just abandon your child and live with your affair partner without taking any financial responsibility. That's beyond selfish. But I'll tell you one last time. If you don't pay, your life as you know it will be over. That's all I'm going to say. If you have no intention of paying, I'll take this to court. I'll give you a week to figure out what you're going to do, and let me know." With that, I left the scene. Afterward, I went to my family's home and told my father, who was taking care of my daughter, about what had happened. My father mentioned knowing a lawyer who could help us and promised full support if needed. A week later, Robert called me. "Hello. Hi. I promised to pay the compensation and child support. I already told you before, no installment payments. If you're going to pay, it has to be in full. My parents said they'd lend me the money, so I think I can pay it all at once. I'm glad you finally gave me a proper answer." There was nothing more to discuss, so I hung up the phone. A few days later, a lump sum covering the compensation and child support until my daughter turned 18 was transferred to my account. Since I had already submitted the divorce papers, I no longer needed to have any contact with him. I deleted his contact information and cut ties completely. Since he had never visited my family's home, even if he bore a grudge, he wouldn't know where I lived. Now I could finally focus on raising my daughter in peace. That was all I hoped for. Several weeks passed. One day, as I was taking care of my daughter as usual, I received a phone call from a friend. It was rare for them to call, so I wondered if something serious had happened. I answered the phone. "Hello. Hey, I heard your ex-husband is working at a construction site. Is that true?" "What?" "I've completely cut ties with him, so I have no idea what he's doing. But I assume he's just working at a regular company, isn't he?" I have no idea how the story got out, but among the mutual acquaintances we share, the whole scandal spread quickly. Apparently, it even reached his workplace, and he ended up resigning because he had no place to stay. I heard his parents run a small construction company, so he might be working there now. But honestly, it's not my concern anymore. Of course, I received alimony and child support, so I refrained from exposing his affair to his workplace or his new partner. However, the issue was too big to keep hidden, and somehow the story leaked and spread rapidly. In the end, he lost his job and is now burdened with debts to his parents, leading a life that can hardly be called happy. Given the situation, his lover has probably left him by now too. Well, he did such awful things. Maybe this is karma catching up to him. I think so too. After everything he did, it wouldn't have felt right if he could just get away with it by paying some money. He might continue to spiral downward and end up crying to you for help. Without his lover, the only thing left for him would be his connection to the child. You're probably right, but no matter how miserable he gets, I have no intention of letting him near our child. Being with him brings absolutely no benefit. I'll protect my child myself. Having lost everything, I have no idea what kind of life he'll end up leading, but I hope he hits rock bottom. That's the punishment for betraying one's family and being selfish. Let him suffer through his debts and loneliness, and regret everything he's done deep in his heart, even though it's too late for regret. He has no one else to blame but himself. That's how I feel about it. As for me, I'm still living happily with my family. Even though my mother has dementia, she enjoys playing with her granddaughter. It seems to stimulate parts of her brain she usually doesn't use, so her condition has not deteriorated too much. I also help care for my mother while my father and I work together to raise my child. Every day is truly fun and filled with happiness. In contrast, my ex-husband is living a life far removed from joy. One single mistake can derail your entire future. Anyone can give in to temptation in the moment, but no matter the circumstances, there's always a line you should never cross. From now on, I will live my life with a strong sense of morality, ensuring I never become like my ex-husband. Protecting my child is my mission from here on out. I hope I can keep that focus and continue to do my best.
Your job is just a hobby, isn't it? Just quit already. There was a sound as if something snapped. I didn't respond, and my husband smiled with satisfaction. Seeing his triumphant look, I realized the husband I once loved was no longer there. Expressionless, I faced my husband and extended something towards him. My name is Sophia, a 35-year-old housewife. I have a 15-year-old daughter, Olivia, and my husband, Michael, making us a family of 3. Michael and I were childhood friends. Our families lived next door to each other. We started dating in college. Back then, when I was crying over being cheated on by a then-boyfriend, Michael was the one who stayed by my side. Our parents had always hoped we would marry, and were thrilled when we did. So much so, that when we announced our relationship, both families threw a celebration party. As working adults, we started living together near our respective workplaces. I worked at a small design company, a budding illustrator with demanding days. As for Michael, he worked at a renowned local corporation. The company was known for its clean management practices, and even those in sales positions typically got to return home at regular hours. Before marriage, there was a discussion involving our parents. They suggested I change jobs, but Michael and his parents supported my career, and I continued until I became pregnant. Michael shared household chores with me. He'd take over when I was busy, never complaining. He'd leave notes when he went to bed first, and plan surprises for anniversaries and birthdays. Of course, I took over the chores during his busy periods. In this way, we supported each other. Our relationship smoothly continued, and we married in our 3rd year as working professionals. I got pregnant soon after marriage. It was around this time that Michael changed. Suffering from severe morning sickness, I retired early. I started spending more time at home. But being at home didn't mean I could move around much. From morning until bedtime, the nausea was relentless, and I often spent the whole day confined to the bathroom. I thought Michael would understand. But one day, as soon as he came home, he looked around the living room and said, "Wow, what's this mess? Hey, Sophia, what have you been doing all day?" Today, I felt too sick to move from the bed. Maria managed to keep the house clean even during her pregnancy, and she worked and cooked meals too. I wonder why you can't do the same, Sophia. I was speechless. Maria is the wife of his close friend. Her husband, William, is 3 years older than us and is also Michael's boss. Since the beginning of our marriage, we have been close as a couple. Of course, this includes Maria, his wife, as well. Maria, the same age as William, had no friends nearby as her family lived far away. Every time we met, she expressed her joy at being friends with me. William and Maria have a 10-year-old daughter. They were childhood friends too and incredibly got married as students at 18. They had a child while still in college. Both Maria and William attended a correspondence university, balancing childcare, studies, and part-time jobs with support from their families. Michael and I respected them for that. But I hated being compared to Maria. Why suddenly compare me to her? If I were well, I would have done it too. It's not about that. If you really wanted to, you could have done it. You're not sick all day, are you? Think about how I feel coming home to no dinner. With that, he went into the bedroom. Since then, he stopped doing any household chores. But only when we were alone. When guests came, he suddenly became cooperative. For instance, when my mother-in-law comes to help, he returns to doing chores as usual, just for that time. He actively cooks and starts hanging laundry. Then he says, "Sophia is pregnant, so we shouldn't push her too hard. It would be terrible if something happened. Besides, men should do their share of the household chores too." I thought, how can you say that? But I couldn't speak up, seeing how happy his mother was. However, as soon as she left, he abandoned everything he was doing. "I helped today, so you can handle the rest, right? You've slacked off enough." I wasn't slacking off. Can't you at least finish what you started? Sophia, you should do it. You need to break the habit of taking it easy. Maria managed on her own, right? And since Mom is here to help, don't be too demanding. Every time I tried to argue, he would bring up Maria. No matter how many times I asked him to stop, it never changed. After our daughter Olivia was born, he started treating me like a housekeeper. He criticized everything, from the way I folded laundry, to the menu I cooked, even how I cleaned. He also began to meddle in our finances, reducing the budget for my cosmetics and clothes. I lost all freedom because of that. But when guests visited, he put on a show. Especially the day before we had commitments with his or my parents, or William and Maria, he would send me to the beauty salon. Then he would belittle the beautified me. He would tell everyone, I always tell Sophia she needs to stay beautiful. But she's always so modest." Everyone believed his charming words, so I couldn't tell the truth to anyone. I was afraid of ruining the relationship with my kind in-laws. We lived like this for 10 years. After a decade, I got used to it. I learned to ignore his words and to think of him as just an ATM. We remained close with William and Maria, even after 10 years. However, Olivia started feeling uneasy about her father's behavior and finally confronted him. "Dad, why do you always hide your bossy attitude when guests are around?" "What? That's not true. And that's just keeping up appearances. Surely you don't expect me to tell everyone that Mom can't handle the housework, right? I'm just covering for her so she doesn't get embarrassed." She looked unconvinced by his explanation. Seeing that, I started thinking about divorce. But having not worked for 10 years, I was worried about supporting myself and Olivia. Just when I was troubled, an unexpected contact came. It was from the design company I had left 10 years ago. The president told me that they had expanded the business and were looking for freelance illustrators. They thought of me, having worked there before. When I left, everyone had tried to persuade me to stay, saying they hoped I would return one day. I gratefully accepted the offer. However, I couldn't neglect the household chores. So, I initially took on a remote part-time position during a trial period. For half a year, I managed to balance work and household duties successfully. But Michael seemed unhappy with my remote work, increasing his snide remarks. "Don't neglect the household chores for a low-paying part-time job. If you can't handle housework or support the finances, you're just a burden. That was his constant refrain. Olivia supported my work and helped with the chores when she got home. Michael would praise her for helping, but after she went to bed, he would make sarcastic comments to me. Still, I didn't let it bother me. The reason was that my savings were steadily growing. However, the problem was the reason for divorce. I wondered how to tell my kind in-laws about the psychological abuse without shocking them too much. Since our homes were next to each other, I wanted to keep seeing them even after the divorce. While I was thinking about this, I received a call from someone. "I have something I want to discuss. Can I come over to your house tomorrow?" It was Rachel, the daughter of William and Maria. Rachel, now a college student, resembles Maria and is very beautiful. Moreover, she has a good personality and often plays a lot with Olivia. She wanting to talk? To me? I had a bad feeling about this, so I set a time when Olivia would be out for her lessons and prepared some snacks for the day. "Sophia, long time no see." "Rachel, it's been a while. What's this sudden talk about a consultation?" I had her a seat and served her tea. Then she started talking, revealing shocking facts. "Sophia, I'm really sorry. I'm in a relationship with Michael." Her words were completely unexpected. I thought it was a joke, but seeing her tearful eyes, I realized it was true. "I'm a bit confused. Can you start from the beginning? Is it okay if I record this?" "Yes. At first, I didn't know it was Michael. We met on a dating site, and the photos were different. After about a month of messaging, he suggested we meet. I thought he was a college student like me, so I wanted to meet him. But when I got to the place, it was Michael." She started crying at that point. She must have been very shocked. I sat next to her, rubbing her back, and encouraged her to continue. "I'm sorry, the hardest part must be for you." "That's okay. Keep going. I want to know everything." "Okay. At first, I thought Michael was there by coincidence, so I sent a message to change the meeting place. Then he approached me, recognizing me. He said, 'Let's talk for a bit, as long as you don't tell Dad and Mom.' He suggested going somewhere private and led me by the hand." She hesitated, clearly finding it difficult to continue. From her reaction, I understood where it was. It was a hotel. "What happened then?" "I told him I wouldn't enter, but he threatened to expose everything if I didn't. I didn't want Dad and Mom to find out, so I agreed to just talk and went in." I could guess what came next. Her hands were trembling. I covered her hand with mine. She gathered her courage and told me everything. "As soon as we entered the hotel room, he pushed me down and, after it was over, he took pictures of me, stunned, and said, 'You know what will happen if you don't want to be exposed,' and gave me money. It was the same thing from then on. I was so scared." She then broke down in tears. I stroked her while biting my lip. I couldn't believe Michael could do such a despicable thing. After crying, Rachel took an envelope from her bag. "This is the money he gave me. It's $50,000 in total. He never spent money on you but gave me this much, which is unacceptable. I don't have much savings, but I'll pay for the divorce trial deposit. I plan to talk to my parents after this. I don't expect them to forgive me." "Just wait a moment. Let's go talk to your parents together. I'll keep this money for now. I wouldn't dream of asking you for a deposit for a divorce trial. In fact, Rachel, you're the victim here. You could even file a police report if you wanted." She started crying again at my words. I contacted William and Maria, and without telling Michael, arranged for them to meet at our house. Since I couldn't let Olivia hear this, I arranged for her to stay overnight at her grandparents' house. She was delighted to go. When I told Michael, he said he'd also stay at his parents' house, so we decided to meet at our house. Then Rachel's parents, William and Maria, arrived. Rachel didn't seem able to talk, so I decided to tell them everything. After hearing it all, William and Maria were furious with Michael and then apologized to me. "Sophia, I am so sorry we've caused you pain."
No, it's not like that. Rachel is a victim. You don't need to apologize. I just need your cooperation.
It's a relief you say so. We both are grateful. I'd punch him right now if I could. Tell us anything, we're here to help. Maria had been silent, but then she looked up at me. Sophia, Rachel is still an affair partner, no matter what. She should have spoken up honestly instead of complying because she was afraid of us finding out. But it's our fault too. We didn't have that kind of open relationship with her. I'm sorry for causing you trouble. Maria, with tears in her eyes, expressed her apology. I felt tears welling up too. After she looked up, I started discussing our plan. Actually, the $50,000 Michael gave Rachel, I don't think it's from our household money. I didn't receive any living expenses, but I did open his salary statements every month. Sure, his allowance was generous, but $50,000 in half a year? It's not possible. I haven't seen any debt collection letters, and his parents don't lend or borrow money. Yet, he actually handed over $50,000. Doesn't it sound suspicious? Hearing this, William seemed to have an idea and agreed to investigate. I got the dating site account details from Rachel and started monitoring it. We decided to have Maria act as an undercover agent to meet the account holder. About a week later, they contacted me, saying, "We've gathered all the evidence." We then devised a plan. The execution place was my in-laws' house. Sorry for the sudden call, Abigail. Can we all talk next weekend? My parents and William's family will join too. From my call, my mother-in-law, Abigail, sensed something and agreed, asking to keep it a secret from Michael. I then got permission from Rachel and vaguely explained the situation to Olivia. She was shocked to learn about her father, but more upset about Rachel being hurt. She had been dissatisfied with his attitude and promised to stay with me after the divorce. She also wanted to be present at the meeting. I hesitated, but respecting her determination, I agreed. On the day of execution, we headed to my in-laws' house.
It's rare for William's family to join us. I wonder what it is.
Michael said cheerfully. Apparently, Abigail told him she had something to discuss. When we arrived, William's family was also just getting there.
Sorry for the sudden visit to your parents' house. Mom was sudden too. Hey Maria, you're as beautiful as ever. Love your outfit today.
Unaware of the tension, Michael cheerfully chatted. Then he turned to Rachel.
Rachel, long time no see. You've grown a bit, haven't you? More and more like Maria. Got a boyfriend yet?
The atmosphere was tense at his words. She forced a smile and said, "Come on, Michael. We just saw each other last week."
Did we? Maybe we passed each other at the station.
Caught off guard, he hastily changed the subject. We then all entered the house. Everyone sat down, and there was a moment of silence. It was broken by Abigail.
So, Sophia, what's this talk you mentioned on the phone? You have something to talk about, Mom? Sophia? What's going on?
I produced the salary statements and a divorce application. His parents looked at me in surprise. Michael, without even looking at the salary details, tore up the divorce application.
Gathering everyone for some joke? Is it because you can't do housework lately? That's because you're scribbling pictures for a tiny allowance. Your job is just a hobby, right? Just quit it already.
There was a sound as if something snapped. I didn't respond, and Michael smiled with satisfaction. Seeing his triumphant look, I realized the husband I once loved was no longer there. Expressionless, I faced and extended something towards him.
You should recognize what this is immediately. What? How did you get this? No, it's not what it seems. What's different? I'd like to know. How will you explain being a comforter to your best friend's daughter?
William's words left Michael speechless. The in-laws read the documents, looking pale. My father-in-law, Alexander, said,
Michael, not only did you betray Sophia, but you betrayed your best friend and damaged his daughter. Michael, not only did you betray Sophia, but you betrayed your best friend and damaged his daughter. Explain yourself.
Sophia, I'm sorry. I thought our foolish son was making you and Olivia happy. Alexander glared at Michael, his face red with anger, while Abigail wept. Michael, seemingly resigned, answered seriously.
Since marrying Sophia, I fell for Maria at first sight. But she was married to William and even had a child. I couldn't ruin their happiness. And I cared for Sophia too, so I decided to marry her. But when she got pregnant, she barely moved. It annoyed me how she used her illness as an excuse. Maria was beautiful, perfect at housework and childcare, so I always wondered why Sophia couldn't do the same. And she couldn't do housework properly but started remote work. I couldn't stand it. She even made Olivia help with chores. What a terrible mother. But I didn't divorce her because Olivia was cute. I'm kind like that. Recently, I've been meeting women who resemble Maria through online dating. One of them was Rachel. I was thrilled when I found her. I lured her out using a different photo and manipulated her by mentioning William and his family. Being with Rachel, who looked just like Maria, made me happy. You're the worst. Maria and Rachel are different people. And threatening with photos? And that money you gave Rachel, it was the company's expenses, wasn't it?
William's words made Michael snort. The in-laws were stunned. It was a shock to learn that their son, whom they had thought was kind, was the complete opposite.
I'll just pay back the expenses with the divorce settlement money from Sophia. Sophia, you didn't do housework, so you should pay the divorce settlement. And child support too. Don't rely on me because you have no money. And I'll remarry Rachel. I get a wife who looks like Maria, and Olivia will be happy with a young mom. Plus, our kids will be cute.
At Michael's words, Rachel gasped. He looked satisfied, seeing her scared.
Dad, what are you saying? If there's a divorce, I'll go with Mom, and Rachel won't marry you. Besides, you're creepy. I hate you. Hey, did Mom tell you to say that? She has no income or house. Let's be a family with Rachel and me.
Olivia, unsurprisingly, rejected Michael's pleas. She brushed off his hand and glared at him tearfully.
Those are my feelings. You made Mom and Rachel cry. How could I like someone like you? You're gross, stay away. Hey, Sophia. What have you been telling her?
Michael's anger was directed at me, not Olivia. I sighed and showed him the salary statements.
I told her the truth. That you're a lowlife who preyed on your best friend's daughter. And look at the payment section. I earn more than you.
I'm becoming a full-time employee next month. Even as a part-timer, I'm a freelancer. I've been earning with the drawings you mocked. So there's no problem after the divorce. Michael, I'd love to hand you over to the police right now, but Rachel said she'll endure it for Olivia's sake. So I'll hold off. But the embezzlement is a different story. The boss already knows. Be prepared. Michael finally understood the gravity of the situation. He turned pale and sought help from his parents. But their response was the opposite of what he expected.
We're cutting ties with you. You'll pay the embezzlement and divorce settlement money yourself, and you're not welcome here anymore. With a scumbag like you in the house, Sophia and Olivia won't be able to return.
My in-laws rejected him. Then my father, Louis, who had been silent, spoke. Michael, I've known you since you were born, even when you were in your mother's womb. That's why I entrusted Sophia to you. But this outcome is disappointing. I never want to see you again.
No, wait. Sophia, you won't divorce me, right? You love me, don't you?
Michael, respecting my father, turned pale and looked at me. Then, unbelievably, he suggested reconciliation. He desperately clung to me, thinking I still loved him. I presented another divorce application.
I want a divorce now. I don't love you anymore. I'll take all the savings as child support, so there's no need for property division. I won't take a divorce settlement from you, so pay Rachel. Oh, and what was that phrase? If you can't do housework or support the family, you're a burden. I'm returning those words to you. We don't need a burden in our future.
Michael tried to retort, but no words came out. Glared at by everyone there, he reluctantly signed the divorce papers.
Alexander, Abigail, even though I'm divorcing Michael, Olivia is still you two's granddaughter. Can we visit sometimes?
Of course. We'd be honored if you two visit. Abigail, happy to see her granddaughter again, agreed. Then, they had Michael write a disinheritance document and kicked him out. He was fired from his job without making the embezzlement public. After handing over his savings to us, he was left penniless and now works day and night, living in a shabby house. The local rumors spread, leaving him friendless and without help. William's family moved. It seems they considered the possibility of Michael making a sudden appearance. We still keep in touch and occasionally go on trips together. We hesitated at first, but it was Rachel's wish. My career is going well, earning enough for Olivia and me. We even bought a newly built condominium and plan to move in next year. We look forward to living happily, doing what we love.